verse number?
3.
3. Good luck. Well, thanks. Thanks. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 2, The Movements of the Sun. Starting with text 3. Yanmadhyagato bhagavans tapatam patistapana atapena trilokim pratapat avabhasvayat atmabhasa sa esha udgayana dakshinayana vishnubhata samghyabhir manja shagriya samanabhir gatabhir arohana barahona samana Stanishu yata savanam abhipadyamano madakadishu rashishu ahoratrani dirgha rasva samanani vidate. Hari Krishna. As good as I can do. Okay, word for words. Yat. Of which. The immediate space. Madhyagata, being situated in the middle. Bhagavan, the most powerful. Tapatam Pati, the master of those that heat the whole universe. Tapana, the sun. Atapena, by heat. Trilokim, the three worlds. Pratapati, heats. Avabhasayati, lights. Atmabhasa, by its own illuminating rays. Saha, that. Esha, the sun globe. Udaghayana, of passing to the northern side of the equator. Dakshina ayana, of passing to the southern side of the equator. Vishnuvata, or of passing through the equator. Samgyabhihi, by different names. Mandya, characterized by slowness. Shaigya, swiftness. Samanabhihi, and by equality. Gatibhihi, by movement. Arohana, of rising. Avarohana, of going down. Samana, or of staying in the middle. Stanishu, in positions. Yata savanam, according to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Abhipadyamana, moving. Makara Adishu, headed by the sign Makara, Capricorn. Rashishu, in different signs. Aha Ratrani,
Aharatrani,
the days and nights.
days and nights.
Dirgha,
Dirgha,
long. Raswa,
Rasva,
short.
short.
Samanani,
Samanani,
equal.
equal.
Vidate,
Vidate,
makes.
makes.
Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
In the midst of that region of outer space, Antariksha, is the most opulent sun, the king of all the planets that emanate heat, such as the moon. By the influence of its radiation, the sun heats the universe and maintains its proper order. It also gives light to help all living entities see. While passing toward the north, toward the south, or through the equator, in accordance with the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is said to move slowly, swiftly, or moderately. According to its movements in rising above, going beneath, or passing through the equator, and correspondingly coming in touch with various signs of the zodiac, headed by Makara, Capricorn, days and nights are short, long, or equal to one another. Purport by His Divine Grace. Lord Brahma prays in his Brahma Samhita 552, Yach chakshuri sasavita sakala grahanam Raja samasta sudamurti rasheshate jaha Yas yagyaya brahmatisam pritakala chakro Govinda Aripurusham tamaham vajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within the fixed orbit of eternal time. The sun is the king of all planetary systems and has unlimited potency in heat and light. Although the sun is described as Bhagawan, the most powerful, and although it is actually the most powerful planet within the universe, it nevertheless has to carry out the order of Govinda, Krishna. The sun god cannot deviate even an inch from the orbit designated to him. Therefore, in every sphere of life, the supreme order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is carried out. The entire material nature carries out his orders. However, we foolishly see the activities of material nature without understanding the supreme order and supreme person behind them. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Jakshena Prakriti, material nature carries out the orders of the Lord, and thus everything is maintained in an orderly way. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Mukam Karurivachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shigurun Dinataranam. Namashreshtumanum api satiputram atra sarupam Rupam tasyagrajam udubudim matudim goshtavatim Radha kundam girivanamoho radhika madhavasam Prapto yasya patita kripayo shrigadun tandatosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Padijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Ghodabhani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchakalpatadubhyascha Kripasindubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Antaya Madalabala Haridasya Varyo, Yad Rama Krishna Charanas Parasha Pramodaha, Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayostiyo Yad, Paniyasu Yavasakanda Nakanda Mulahai. Matsamo nasti papatma napadadi nakaschana puri hare pilajjame kim brube purushottama yuvatinam tatayuni yunam cha yavatayata mano bidabate tadvam mano me ramatam twayi bhumau skalita padanam Bhumire babalambanam Tvayi jata padadanam Tvam eva sharanam prabho Govinda balabe radhe pratyē tamaham sada Tudiyam iti janatu govindo mam tvaya saha Radhe vrindavanadishe karunamrita bahini Kripaya tava padabja dasyam mayam pradiyatam. Hare Krishna. The conditioned soul in the material world is being controlled. No one is free from the laws of material nature. Even when the Supreme Lord comes himself, in order to set example for others, he agrees to follow his own laws. This is described in the Bhagavad Gita very nicely by Krishna himself. Name partasti kartavyam trishu loshikeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam varta eva karmani. Varta eva karmani. I don't need to do anything, Krishna says. Namam karmani limpanti, name karma pales priha, iti mam yoga janati. I have nothing to do. I'm not interested in the fruits. But still, I vartanta iti vartate. I follow. Why? Yadi yahamna varte. Jatu karma nyatanvita. Mamabart manuvartante manusha parthasarvasha. Because all living beings, manusha parthasarvasha, all the living beings, they are being asked to follow the laws. And if I don't follow, then what? Utsideva me loka nakarya kamachidaham. Sankarasya chikarataham. Iti kamabirna vidyate. Sankarasya is a very important word. It means unwanted population. Varna sankara. Utsideva me loka. Krishna says, if I didn't follow, everyone else would follow me. And what would happen? Sankarasya tikartayam upahanyami mahaprajaham. I would be the cause of causing of unwanted population on the earth. What does that mean? It means illicit sex. Sankarasya tikartayam. You can't get unwanted population without illicit sex. Therefore, all the rules and regulations which are being symbolized here by the movement of the sun are meant for us to follow. And what makes us conditioned souls is we don't want to follow. That's what makes us conditioned souls. We're rebellious. We don't want to be told what to do. We don't want to do something just because it needs to be done. We don't want to do something because it's good for others. We want to do something because it's good for number one, and nothing more. So there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of selfishness and to selflessness. And all of us fit in this spectrum. So Krishna, he is in control of everything, including the sun. In fact, the sun is an incarnation of Krishna. Surya Narayana it's called. Because nothing can be so powerful. It's been lighting up the universe since time immemorial, and there's still the same degree of heat coming out. Why? Because it's not material. It's an incarnation of Krishna. And although there may be debates about, whether it's moving or whether we're moving, or both, a combination of both, the fact is, if we just hear from a liberated position these descriptions, then when we look at the world through these liberated conditions, we can actually see, through this knowledge, we can see, how things are working. Even if it doesn't tally exactly to the version of the scientific community, still, we can it explains how things are going. And Prabhupada wanted this. He wanted us to create they're working on it now actually, before they do the planetarium in Mayapur. They're trying to, make a model so that somebody can see that if you follow this model, this system, it does work. The shadows and the ups and downs of the days and nights, shorter and longer, and the movements of the planets when the sun's going faster or slower. Sometimes, if you know anything about astrology, they have what is called stationary planets, progressive and regressive. When planets go into regression, it says that they're going backwards. They're not actually going backwards, they continue to go the same. But because everything's calculated according to the movements of the sun, and that's also described earlier in Kapila Dev's description of the universe, how the time is calculated by the movements of the sun over the atom and different sizes of things, until finally Lord Brahma, lifetime is the largest, amount of time in the material world. So the essence of what's being said here is that the whole universe is being actually conducted by laws of nature, and those laws of nature being controlled by Krishna. And what it means to be a liberated soul doesn't mean to become free from those laws exactly. It means to agree to follow them exactly. And when you agree to follow them exactly, you become free. your mind becomes free from what? Becomes free from the friction inside ourselves of acting against the law. Whenever we are feeling uneasy, whenever we're feeling tension, whenever we're feeling something other than blissfulness in Krishna consciousness, we can be sure that we are acting against the law in somehow or other, to some degree or another. And if we want that freedom, then we have to find out what the laws are. So you come here from India and they drive on the left, Prabhupada used to say. You're from England, they drive on the left. You come to America, if you start to drive on the left, you're going to either have a horrible accident and die, or if somebody catches you before you do, you're going to be fined. And if you're really defiant, they'll put you in jail. And if you come before the judge and say, but where I come from, they drive on the left. And they say, well, this isn't where you come from. This is where you are. Sometimes people who want to be liberated prematurely, they'll say, yes, but in the spiritual world. Yeah, but you're not in the spiritual world. You're here now. Be here now. There are certain things you have to do. And if you don't do them, then you're going to suffer. And to the degree that you follow, you will be liberated from that suffering. It's not that to the degree that you can become free from the laws of nature, exactly. It's the degree to which you can follow the laws of nature precisely in the proper consciousness. And what is that proper consciousness? Krishna gives the very consciousness. I'll read the exact translation because it's nice. What chapter is that? Third chapter. No. Is it? No, second chapter. Sorry. I know it by heart and I can't remember what chapter it's in. Somebody remember the number of the verse? Hello? Are we still here? Is anybody still with me? Or have I lost everybody already? Still here, okay. Just don't know. Yeah, it is the third chapter. Just didn't have enough faith.
What's the English?
Yadi yaham navarte yam. Well, let's learn. Yad yadachirate shrestas tat tadeva tudo janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Name partasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam bharta eva chikarmani. O son of Prita, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything. And yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Yadi yaham nabarte yam jatu karman atandrita mama manuvartante manusha partasarvashaha. For if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Utside urime loka na kuryam karmachedaham sankarasya chakarta syam upahanyam ima prajaha. If I did not perform prescribed duties, these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. Saktakar manjabid bangso yata kurvanti bharata kuryad vidbang tata shakti chikirshu lokasangraham. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to the results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. So the sun is an incarnation of Krishna, Surya Narayan. And he is doing just that. He is setting the example. And therefore, they have an atomic clock that's calculated according to the movements of the sun. And they cannot duplicate it with all of their fancy technological equipment. It is so precise. Why? Because Krishna, he is really dutiful. He is so dutiful that, his duty is like lying on a stone. You can't move it this way or that way. But at the same time, he's so wonderful that he can act completely outside of the law at the same time and not mislead anyone. Who can? Go figure, as they say. Go figure. You can't go figure and figure this out. And the more we try to just go figure and figure it out, the more anxiety we're in. The more we try to find exceptions to the rule so that we can do our thing, the more we want to, act outside of the law, or the more we feel like we don't want to have an authority, the more we organize our lives in such a way as we don't have an authority. Who is he to tell me what to do? On any level. Whether we be husband and wife together, who's she tell me what to do? Who's he to tell me what to do? Doesn't work like that. If you're in that mentality, hey, divorce is right down the road. Just right down the road. Never work. Why? Because every relationship, every activity, every endeavor in this material world requires surrender. Requires surrender. What does it mean? It means sacrifice. A little bit before in those Bhagavad Gita verses, Krishna says, Evam pavartitam chakram nanuvartya yuyar agayur indriyamarmi mogam partha sajivati. Evam pavartitam chakram. There's a cycle. There's a cycle of sacrifice. And if we get on that cycle of sacrifice and ride it and follow it properly, then we become properly situated. And if we don't, then agayur indriyaramo mogam partha sajivati. Liberation evades us. And we suffer. And we're so stupid that the first thing we do when we suffer is we point our finger at somebody else. Yes, well, look over there. Look what they did. Because they did this, I'm suffering. Because he's like that, I can't succeed. Because she's like that, I can't get it. So this section of Srimad Bhagavatam is extremely important. It's there for a reason. It's right in the middle of the Bhagavatam, 5th canto. And it's there for a very good reason. To train us, to teach us, to show us that the structure of the universe is so vast compared to us. There's no question of us acting outside of the law. That this is the power of the illusory energy. This is the power of Krishna's illusory energy. It can make us think that we're free. when in fact we're controlled at every second. I was catching up on the news and the internet the other day, and they have this whole problem now because the middle class in America, which is like supposed to be the breadbasket and thing that's powering the whole planet right now, is getting squeezed to the max. And what's it getting squeezed by? Very interesting. It's getting squeezed by their health care. Getting squeezed by, why is it getting squeezed by their health care? Because you can't go to a doctor anymore without accepting all of this high technology. And all that high technology costs a lot of money. So then rather, before they used to have the same diseases and they would, get advice, go out into the sun, take a walk, Srila Prabhupada was advised, take a morning walk every day, and he did that, and he went on for 80 some years. But they've been brainwashed into thinking they can't do without a tube here and a tube there and this kind of drug here and this kind of drug there, drug to get you up, drug to bring you down, drug to keep you steady, this kind of drug, that kind of drug, and they're all like, got to go to Canada to get it, to afford it. And they're just getting squeezed more and more. And the scientists are up there saying, yes, but we're the high priest. We know. Don't try to put in the schools that intelligent design may be true. That's just you're trying to push religion on us. Darwin said it was it could be like this. It's like this, man. And I can make a machine that will print out or make a file. Multimedia file. It'll show you just what it was like, 5 trillion years ago. Look, here it is. And the kids, yeah, rock and roll. Let's go. That's it. Then they teach them, to break the law, to go above the laws of nature and do whatever you want to, whenever you want to, with whomever you want to. And then when everything starts to shake, rattle and roll, really, the earth starts to shake and the heavens open up and they get blown off the planet, then they wonder what's happening. Then they blame the U.S. government. FEMA. It's all the FEMA's fault. They won't think for a second that I'm blowing it big time because I'm not following God's law. And it's so ironic because the ones who are supposed to be in the spiritual leadership positions, they're the ones that are allowing, they're the ones that are they're, to keep the money flowing into their coffers. They're just compromising left, right, and center. In the meantime, what's happening? The sun is moving exactly. It can't move this way, or it can't move that way. If it moves this way, just a half a hair, we're fried. We're toast. Popcorn. And if it goes this way, we're an ice cube. That's how kind Krishna is. How dutiful he is. He's agreeing to do it. What's wrong with us? Why can't we follow? Why can't we be dutiful? Why can't we put our, the pushings of our genitals and our tongue, a little bit to the side in order to follow a rule and a regulation? Why can't we agree to organize ourselves, nicely? Why? Because we're all in Maya. Because we're all thinking, how I can get, a piece of the action for myself. And if somebody disturbs it or wants to take something away from it, then wait a second. Then we'll do a politic. Get this guy out of here, he's he's rocking the boat, And now the whole government's going to shake from this, Now one guy's been, exposed and he's going to start to testify, and who knows, scores of these so-called guys who've been taking all the lobbyists' money in order to, right? Squiggle through. So we can't be in Krishna consciousness and be like that. This is the purpose of this section of Srimad Bhagavatam. You can't be in Krishna consciousness and be in that mentality. You got to go straight. What does going straight mean? It means you got to try to stop scamming it. You got to stop trying to get something for nothing. You got to try to stop avoiding working and sacrificing my energy in order to make other people pleased, in order to make ultimately Krishna pleased. We probably got 150, or who knows, how many do we have in this community? 150 devotees in the community. We can't even keep the paint on the railings. With the energy of 150 people, we can't keep the paint on the railings. If Srila Gurudev were here, I'm telling you, he'd flip out if he saw the condition of the paint. Of course, it's nice, the ambience is so wonderful. I'm not trying to criticize it. It's wonderful. Everyone will come and but still, we know, those of us who knew him and knew how he felt. If you were to put the light of sun in this, we're talking about the sun, right? Talking about the sun, right? If you were to bring the sun into this room, and look carefully at the bolsters and everything, right? That's how you would respond. How could that be? And here we are, merrily going along. One meeting after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. Yad tastas. And then gradually people get, out of the loop of wanting to do things because they see, nothing's going to happen anyway. 23 years later, we can't change a cushion, and we're supposed to take over the world. Well, Prabhu, there's not enough money. Not enough money? Who's in control of the money? Krishna's in control of the sun. Not a blade of grass comes out. Without photosynthesis, you can't have an apple. You can't have a grape. You can't have a leaf. So Krishna consciousness means you take all that energy that we've got, individually and collectively, and you put it at the lotus feet of Krishna. And then what does Krishna agree to do? Because he's really dutiful. He'll send so much money you won't know how to spend it. And it can happen. Right now in Hungary, I don't know if you know this, in Hungary, well, it's a little over the marathon, but they had 180 devotees out on book distribution for the Christmas marathon. They just completed, or they will complete, the opening of the Budapest temple. $3 million project. Cash. Paid for by the proceeds from the book distribution. Now, 21st century. Earth. But we're too busy criticizing, complaining about others. We're too busy. We're too distracted, actually. We're too proud to surrender to Krishna. Get with the program, the sun. Every day, like steady, you can't even duplicate it. Even how it slows down and speeds up, goes here, in our movements of the planet. It's all so precise. You can't duplicate it. Even with their fanciest computer, they have to make it. This year, what they had to do, they had to add a second. Right? They had to add a second. Not quite. The atomic clocks, they couldn't quite get it right. They had to add a second to catch up with the sun. So we hear these verses, we should be inspired. We should be inspired. We should be not only just inspired to follow, but inspired to go forward. Inspired to come to the perfectional stage, where we can see all these things for ourselves. Where our enthusiasm will come to the point where it'll be so great, Krishna he'll come to us. He won't be able to to stand being separated from us any longer, and He'll take us back. That's Krishna consciousness. That's the process of Krishna consciousness. You can't even go back to Krishna unless Krishna wants you to. I mean, He does want us to go back, but what attracts Him or doesn't attract Him more or less is our eagerness, our love, our eagerness. And when our eagerness comes to a state where we won't be able to stand it for another moment without seeing Krishna face to face, Krishna appears. If it sounds far-fetched, it's no more far-fetched than a sun that is moving exactly, These rascals, they're rascals. They want to take the credit. They don't want to give the credit to God. They don't want to admit that there's an intelligence that's so advanced that they cannot approach it with any amount of effort. Why? Because they want to take that position. That's who we are in this material world. We're trying to imitate Radha and Krishna. The entire material nature carries out His orders. However, we foolishly see the activities of material nature without understanding the supreme order and supreme person behind them. So this requires something. It requires what's this word? Utsa, utishta, Shri Guru, Chajanidram Kapamaya. Or at the end of the 4th chapter, Tasmat. Got it out of my tongue. Tasmat agyana sambhutam ritstam jnana sinatmana chitvainam sangshayam yogam atishto tishta bharata. That word is there. Utishta, stand up. Or wake up. Stand up, wake up. And what? And do what? Fight. Not with one another. Prabhu, I'm following the Bhagavad Gita by the letter. I fight with every single person that I come in contact with. It says right in the Bhagavad Gita, stand up and fight. Then you're an idiot. If you're fighting with everybody, then you're an idiot. How can you tell? How can you tell if you're doing okay or not? I mean, ultimately it's whether you feel okay or not. That's what Prabhupada told me personally. But that's a long ways away. He told me that also. It's a long ways away to be able to actually be in touch with yourself enough that when you actually feel all right, then you'll know Krishna is feeling all right because you're doing just what He wants you to do. That's a way far away. But immediately, how do you know? You know by the general reciprocation you're getting. I remember when we first used to go out in Sankirtan, there were certain devotees that they would always get into run-ins with the police. Always. Or run-ins with people. They were always fighting tooth and nail. And there were some that just, like Vaishesika, just sailed right, Just sailed right to it. Because they were in different consciousness. So there's a way to do everything. There's a way to express yourself. in every situation, in such a way that Krishna will be pleased. And if you do that, in general, people will be pleased with you, especially in the devotee community. Devotees will be pleased with you in general. If you're always like trying to fight tooth and nail for, getting your little piece of whatever, and avoiding, the mainstream in order to, be able to maintain it, then you have to live with that. You have to live with that suffering. You have to live in separation from Krishna. And the solution is simple. We cooperate together out of love for Krishna. We tolerate our own foibles and our own the reactions of our own past sinful activities, which are causing us so much problems. And that's the problem. That's why we're suffering. It's because of all the things that we've done in the past. And the time is the wheel of time, the sun is so exacting and so precise that even organized it so that, the person you did bad last time will come this time and do bad to you. You can't get away from it. You can't escape the law of material nature. When you try to escape the law, you're called a criminal. And then what happens? You have to live like, Bin Laden, in a cave somewhere, in between, this crease of, Pakistan and Afghanistan. There's a place up there, Varsha, Aloka, where you can live and nobody can find you. Great. But then what do you do? There you are. And then what? And, he's supposed to be pleasing God. God put him in a place where he can't even come out and talk to anybody. And, he's pleasing God. The idiots. They're all idiots. And the people who follow them are even bigger idiots. So if we want to fulfill the will of Sri Sri Radhakalachandji, Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly brought the deities here, and this wonderful Krishna consciousness movement that has knowledge beyond the wildest dreams of the materialistic scientists. They can't even dream that they can know these things. They can know what's behind the workings of the universe, all these things, just by agreeing to hear submissively from proper authority. But they're teaching just the opposite. They're teaching how to make yourself the ultimate authority. That's what the whole, materialistic, technological boom is about. And we're not tasting it ourselves because we're, ourselves, not really wanting or not really, surrender to the program, not getting with the program, with Krishna's program, then we won't be able to spread it. People will come and they won't feel, oh, this is where I want to be. This is who I want to be with. They'll look in the hallway and they'll see the devotees going, rah, 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 and they're looking, what is this? They'll come in front of the deities and they'll think, oh, this is wonderful. And they go in the hallway, and, rah, 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 and then they say, wait a second, Let the sun shine. What is it? Here comes the sun. Da, 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 da. Here comes the sun. And everybody was like, yeah. Everybody got behind that one. So here's the Bhagavatam saying, here comes the sun, and not only that, this is who the sun is. And this is what the sun's doing. Well, no, I mean, that's, here comes the sun, do-do-do-do, We just want this superficial kind of, just something to just titillate our nerve endings and make us feel okay for a few seconds. That's what we want. And until we give that up, Mitaraga Bhaya Krodha, then Manmaya Mamupashita, we won't be able to surrender to Krishna. Same program. And we won't be able to get that love that they're all talking about, writing about, praying for, making all these arrangements for. We won't be able to get that love. Because that love is love for Krishna. And the love we have for one another is also love for Krishna. Love for Krishna's devotees. Love for living beings because they are part of Krishna. So you can understand it more or less. Here it mentions the zodiac, and there's ways to understand, what's going to happen, what's happened, why, all these the wherefore. It's just the details of the modes of material nature and how they're interacting. But that won't, get it either. That can help to live a little bit more peacefully. But if it's not used in order to get with the program of the sun, then it will it's like blowing on a boil. Blowing in the air. Blowing in the wind, as they said. Somebody said. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna is so kind. He's given himself in the form of his holy name. And then he came to the earth and he chanted his own holy name in such a way as it started this tsunami, this transcendental tsunami that's sweeping the earth, and most people are so subtle, people don't even know about it. And it's even so subtle that even most of the devotees have forgotten about it. What to speak of materials. We've forgotten that we're in the middle of the tsunami, we're getting swept away by the holy name. Therefore, outside the temple room, you very seldom hear anybody singing Hare Krishna. Some, but very seldom. We just done with the beads go on the hook, and then that's it. So chant Hare Krishna. Be happy. Read these books. Work together out of love for Krishna to make it better, so that more people can come. This is our duty. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Questions or comments? Hit the nail on the head that time. Okay. See you. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Bhakti Maharaj ki
Jai.
jai.